just trying to prepare.
People are hitting the stores ahead of this weekend's potentially icy conditions, what they're buying, and how else they can prepare.
Most of my new clients right now are emerging adults, so between 18 and 24, male sports bettors that are current or former athletes, either on the collegiate or professional level.
A new college game fixing scandal highlights the dark side of sports betting, the warnings from addiction specialists about people getting in too deep.
Queen City News starts now.
Thanks for joining us at 10 tonight. I'm Brian Blakely. The governors of North and South Carolina are issuing states of emergency ahead of this weekend's storm. But what will we get? Ice, which can turn roads into glass and cause thousands of power outages? Or a shift in the system could mean a wintry mix, or all snow. If that happens, how much of it could we get? And then there is a third possibility. A major shift in the weather system could mean maybe a little rain and a quiet weekend after that. I'm with meteorologist Andrew Brightman of the Pinpoint Weather Center. We are still days away, and there are many paths that the storm could take. And Andrew, the latest tracking that came out about 8 o'clock tonight, and you're going to get another one here coming up sometime during the show, a little bit later on.
Yeah, that's right. We're starting to watch some of what we call the 0Z later evening models come in. Generally, I've already had one come in, and not much is changing here. Really, the main themes you're talking about. Unfortunately, this is not going to be a snow event across the Carolinas. You want snow, you want to go up to my hometown of Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City. For us here across the Central Carolinas, it's all about the ice. And the question is, what type of ice, Brian? Is it going to be sleet? Is it going to be freezing rain? We're going to be talking about some of the differences here across the region coming up in just a few minutes with my full forecast. Right now, though, it's just all about kind of preparation mode, monitoring what the latest forecast is, keeping it right here with your Pinpoint Weather Team. We've got mostly cloudy skies tonight, and then it's all about the winter storm this weekend. A major ice storm is possible, looking increasingly likely here across portions of the Carolinas. We've got winter storm watches in effect for the entirety of the viewing area. All across the Central Carolinas, we do have those winter storm watches until 1 o'clock Monday afternoon. What do we know? It's going to be a significant storm. There's no question about that at this point, just to the level of severity here that we're trying to iron out. The timing, anytime after noon on Saturday, conditions will be going downhill and downhill quickly, and really it's just going to be a sleet and ice storm. The exact timing of the precipitation types we'll see. How much sleet? How much freezing rain? Could there be maybe a brief period of snow maybe up in the mountains at the beginning of this event? How much of all of that and the direct impacts all across the Carolinas? Brian was talking about, there's even a small chance at the very end of the system we even change over to rain. This is what we're trying to iron out over the next couple of days. 41 degrees right now, winds out the south here at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Radar, couple of sprinkles, maybe just out to the north and east of Salisbury, but generally expecting dry weather this evening. There's a lot of dry air as this frontal boundary tries to move in. You can see kind of the showers evaporating as they make their way into the Central Carolinas. So not expecting much in the way of wet weather tonight, but a lot of cloud cover and chilly temperatures, but nothing like what we're going to be seeing here as we head on into the weekend. Brian, I've got the latest on what we're tracking here, what we're watching, the impacts, the timing with this storm coming up with my full forecast in just a few minutes.
Andrew, thank you. You can track the conditions anytime, right down to your neighborhood by downloading the newly upgraded Pinpoint Weather app. Get it for free from the Apple App Store and on Google Play. People across the Charlotte area are stocking up before any ice or snow arrives. Queen City News anchor Caroline Boyer joins us now live from the Park Road Shopping Center in South Charlotte. Caroline, there's been a lot of foot traffic there today.
Yeah, Brian, people are going to the grocery store to get supplies. They're also hitting the hardware store. The problem a lot of people are running into, though, is that some places are beginning to run out of things.
Batteries for flashlights, since they say we may lose power.
Ice scraper for our windshields so that we can drive.
Those are some of the items people in Charlotte are buying ahead of winter weather expected to hit this weekend.
For this time of the year, it's a lot more than usual.
Blackhawk Hardware's owner tells me he had a steady stream of customers purchasing preparedness items throughout the day Wednesday.
Naturally, sleds has been really big all day, and ice melter, I think, are the two biggest things.
The store is expecting a new shipment of generators and salt on Friday.
Definitely a little nervous because Charlotte hasn't gotten this much snow in a while, so Just trying to prepare.
Meanwhile, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Emergency Management Team is making its own preparations.
We are preparing to open up the Emergency Operations Center throughout the weekend. And so what that does is basically it's a centralized place for city, county, towns, and other community partners to really come together and make decisions about how we can best support our residents.
We're, of course, going to be keeping a close eye on road conditions once this storm gets to our area. We are expecting to get an update tomorrow from North Carolina Department of Transportation officials about the preparations those crews are making. Live in Charlotte, Caroline Boyer, Queen City News.
Caroline, thanks. Charlotte leaders will hold a briefing tomorrow morning to go over their preparations for this weekend's winter weather, go over the potential impact of the city's trees and roads. That briefing set for 10 tomorrow morning. North Carolina Governor Josh Stein will also hold a news conference tomorrow in Raleigh to discuss statewide preparations. Stein and other officials will discuss the available response from state agencies for the emergency response, and that briefing is at 11:15 tomorrow. We'll have coverage of both on Queen City News. Family and friends will hold a celebration of life tomorrow for one of the victims killed in a Rowan County crash. The memorial for 20-year-old Fletcher Harris is at 2 tomorrow afternoon at Williamson Chapel on Brawley School Road in Mooresville. He was a student athlete at Catawba College. He and 19-year-old Skylar Provenza were killed Friday night in what police say was a collision with a drunk driver. Her celebration of life was this afternoon in Statesville. Former Ardrey Kell High School basketball star Elijah Gray will be sentenced in March for his role in an alleged NCAA basketball point shaving scandal. Another former Charlotte athlete, Jalen Smith, is accused of paying Gray and other players to throw games. And they're among more than 20 people accused in a game-fixing scandal. As Queen City News reporter Shakira Speak shows us, incidents like these have addiction specialists sounding the alarm.
There are Charlotte connections to a new college basketball point shaving scheme, including one alleged game fixer and a former Ardrey Kell High School star. Federal prosecutors say fixers paid players to fix NCAA Division I men's basketball games from September 2022 to February 2025.
So the integrity of the sport obviously is altered and challenged, and it's done for people to try and make a lot of money.
The indictment says the bribes usually range from $10,000 to $30,000 per game, depending on playoff and championship games. The last impacted game was just over a year ago.
That's why they hit some of these mid-majors or the lower guys who are not making as much money as you can make with some of these Division I, super conferences. They hit some of these guys who are more apt to take the money.
This is just the latest sports betting scandal. In October, the FBI announced the arrests of dozens of people, including former Charlotte Hornet Terry Rozier. Attorney Matthew Timpanik says intent is key when proving these cases.
But what they really want is the people who are profiting the most. Usually, it's organized crime. That's where they usually want it. If there's not, it's whoever was betting the most and who was kind of a ringleader. That's usually the people who have the longest exposure in a prison term.
Gambling experts are seeing addiction issues on the rise, estimating about 2.5 million American adults meet the criteria for having a severe gambling problem. Another 5.8 million are considered to have more moderate gambling troubles. Those experts are urging North Carolina officials to use more gaming revenue for training, support, and research to help people with gambling disorders as the demand for sports betting rises.
Gambling doesn't affect your health like alcohol or drugs do, right? So a much smaller percentage of people facing a gambling addiction come to treatment than people who are dealing with alcohol or drugs. So we're not even catching, not even 10% of the people who are struggling.
If convicted, suspects in the point shaving scheme could face 5 to 20 years in prison for bribery, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Reporting in Charlotte, Shakira Speaks, Queen City News.
Mecklenburg County officials tomorrow will hold their annual point-in-time count around the Charlotte area. The count helps gauge the number of people experiencing homelessness and tracks trends in housing that can help connect individuals with resources during the count. The data allows the county to receive federal funding for community programs. TikTok is expected to close a deal tomorrow after signing an agreement with three major investors. Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX will form a new joint U.S. venture for the platform. This will ensure the app will continue to operate in the States. TikTok's CEO from China confirmed that ByteDance has signed off on the agreement. Andrew.
Brian, coming up after the break, talking more about the upcoming winter storm this weekend, the latest with the track, the impacts we can see across the region with my full forecast next.
Crews across the Carolinas are hard at work preparing for the storm. Their plan to keep your power on and the roads safe as possible. A chance to keep in touch with people all over the world. How a school is bringing students together through the power of the pen. Gabe.
We got plenty coming up on Carolina Sports Live at 11 o'clock. The Hornets with the national spotlight tonight, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers, coming oh so close to getting it done. We'll break down what went wrong and what's next for the team as they continue to show some progress this season. Plus, the latest on the rehab of Jonathan Brooks, the Panthers running back that was a second-round pick in 2024, and a recap of day 2 of NASCAR Media Days for the O'Reilly Series up in Concord. That and more at 11 o'clock right here on CSL.
You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. Winter storm preparations are ramping up across the Carolinas to ensure safety and keep power outages to as few as possible. Duke Energy representatives say during situations like this, they hope for the best but prepare for the worst. They say it only takes a quarter of an inch of ice on power lines and on tree limbs to start knocking out electricity. Raleigh crews are out today cutting down unneeded limbs to reduce the risk. Tomorrow, Duke's personnel will do an inventory on their trucks to make sure they have everything they need.
In this case, certainly it could be a significant storm. So we're going to make sure we have the resources on hand, the inventory on hand, the technology on hand to fight this storm and its impacts as much as possible. Our crews will be out there working 16-hour shifts, in conditions, whatever they are, as long as it's safe to do so.
Also tomorrow, utility crews will decide whether to bring in contractors from other states to back up power restoration efforts. North Carolina transportation personnel are also keeping an eye on the forecast. Crews across the state are busy making the saltwater solution they're using to treat roads ahead of ice and snow. They have a message for drivers. If you have to be on the roads and highways this weekend, give them plenty of room to do their work.
It's going to get really cold after the snow leaves. Salt does not work below 20 degrees. and we're looking at days where single-digit lows are in the forecast. So any progress we make after the storm will be slow. Our resources are fully deployed. You will not see us out much at night simply because it's going to be too cold to make any progress.
NCDOT officials say people should not expect to see many crews on the roads at night because it will be too cold for salt and brine to work. South Carolina transportation officials say, hey, they have 60,000 tons of salt and 1,200 pieces of equipment ready to respond statewide. They'll be treating interstates and highly traveled highways, surface roads, and bridges.
Often treat bridges because air can move underneath a bridge, making a bridge surface freeze more quickly than the road surface, even right next to it.
Leaders say all 4,000 SCDOT employees across the state train and perform maintenance throughout the year so they can respond to winter weather emergencies like this weekend. Major travel impacts are expected from the storm, including at Charlotte Douglas International and Raleigh-Durham International airports. American and Delta Airlines are allowing passengers to rebook at no cost to avoid flying during the worst of the weather. Customers with tickets from Friday through Sunday can change their flights as long as they fly before next Wednesday. People who have travel plans for this weekend are urged to plan ahead.
The airlines and the flights, they operate like a giant national chessboard. So if one is delayed somewhere, it's a snowball effect, no pun intended, to the other flights in the area and down the line.
Passengers are also advised to check with their airlines before heading to the airport. Well, let's go back to the weather right now as we take a live look at downtown Monroe tonight. The focus continues to be on this active winter weather that we are preparing for this weekend. That looks more like Blowing Rock, North Carolina. That's not Monroe. Yeah, put a little switch up on us, but we caught you guys. All right, let's check in with meteorologist.
Trying to sneak a curveball past you?
Yeah, throw it a curveball. No, you're not going to sneak
a curveball
past me.
Brian, you were sitting on that. We got to get you back in our softball league, man. Anyway, we've got a significant storm. Just I want to keep hammering the points home. We're really not expecting much in the way of any snow. Maybe very at the very beginning, potentially. But it's all about ice here across the Carolinas. What type of ice? And I'll talk more about the different types of precipitation a little bit later on in the hour, but sleet or freezing rain, that's what we're going to be watching here. And we're going to get into some of the time frames we're going to see with this storm system coming up as well. So right now, downtown Blowing Rock outside, you can see that, just kind of serene, beautiful weather right now. A lot of cloud cover, I would say, across the Carolinas, but otherwise we're looking in good shape. Right at the freezing mark as well up in Blowing Rock. The latest with this storm, the timing, Saturday afternoon through really all day on Sunday. The what? It's really going to be sleet and freezing rain. Dangerous travel. It is just no here once we get to Saturday night through Sunday morning, and then kind of monitoring what's going on later on in the day. Maybe we can get to warm up enough. We might change the rain. Still looks unlikely, but small potential of that. And what's undetermined? How much snow and ice can we see? What is the exact timing of a change from sleet to freezing rain? That's what we really need to iron out here. Again, we've got the forecast laid out. We're taking the iron to it right now. And really by the time we get to tomorrow, going to have a very good idea. That's when we'll start talking about totals of various snow, sleet, freezing rain. That's when we'll really start to get into it. You really want to be only 48 hours out from a system before we start talking about totals. My entire life here, I've been watching winter storms, what got me into the weather. And I've always learned you got to wait till you're about 48 hours out. Generally what we're thinking here, mostly ice. Everywhere in the purple, 90% of the system plus is going to be ice. There's the potential, once we get up towards Ashe County, might be a little bit more snow than ice. Potential. There's a decent chance all the Carolinas, it's all ice here. But if we're going to see any snow, it'll be way up, probably around Ashe County, Avery County, Watauga County. It's possible, but still generally expecting mostly when it comes to ice on the way here. So future cast, I'll zoom out. Ooh, I pressed the wrong button there. Future cast, basically what's going to be going on is the storm is going to be moving through portions of the Carolinas as we get to the afternoon hours here as we go through your Saturday. Let's keep going backwards here. Let's get back to your radar. It's quiet here across the Carolinas. I'll try to zoom back out what we got going on. What's going to be happening as we go throughout the morning hours on your Thursday? There's the possible showers moving on through. And as we keep pushing forward here, there's some of those possible showers here. For the most part, though, expecting dry conditions here across the Carolinas. But the storm system, it's going to be taking shape farther off to our west. There's the shower activity. There's where it starts taking shape as we go throughout the afternoon hours here on Friday. Still a couple of showers, the Arctic front moving through the Carolinas. Now, what's going to happen, you'll notice very quickly it starts changing over to sleet and freezing rain. Dallas, there's the snow taking shape farther on to the north. All of this starts moving off to the east and towards the Carolinas. Now, as we keep moving forward here, we get to your Saturday morning. Still dry. Morning hours were okay across the Carolinas. As we get into the evening, that's when we see all of the ice start to move in. There's the sleet and freezing rain around Charlotte, Hickory, Boone, up towards Roanoke. It's snow farther off to the north. That's a major snowstorm as we get towards the northern mid-Atlantic states. And the worst of this storm is the overnight hours through Sunday morning here across the Carolinas. This is 5 a.m. on your Sunday. There's the sleet and freezing rain. And there's that warm advection, the warmer air trying to move in. It'll likely potentially change over to rain in places like Knoxville. But on the east side of the mountains, there's that cold wedge we talk about so much here across the region. It continues to hold on. This particular model is very, very aggressive with trying to get the warmer air in. And you can see what I'm talking about, trying to change us all the way over to rain as we get to late Sunday night. I'm still skeptical about there's going to be so much cold air. They're going to have to try to evac out, move out with warmer winds and also some of the sleet and freezing rain. Because as that sleet and freezing rain falls, that's actually a warming process as it turns to ice. Eventually, this all moves out as we get to your Monday morning, and then we're in much better shape here as we go throughout the rest of your Monday, though we do have to deal with the very cold temperatures. So radar is quiet right now. We zoom out. There's that frontal boundary that's going to be moving on. And you got two frontal boundaries that's bringing us the Arctic air. So there we go. Let's go back to your pinpoint 7-day forecast here. We've got the sleet and freezing rain as we get to your Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures going to be staying below the freezing mark here. And then behind it, Brian, bitter, bitter cold as we get to early next week.
Be prepared, and we'll be telling you all about it too, Andrew. Thank you. Coming up, a heated confrontation between two Iredell Statesville school board members caught on camera. What both officials tell Queen City News led to the combustible situation. And a suspect in court as part of an alleged murder for hire plot against Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino. The ominous text messages between the suspects. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte.
getting your head ripped off.
Well, an Iredale Statesville School Board meeting ends with a heated, profanity-laced confrontation between two board members, and it was all caught on camera. Queen City News reporter Jen Cardone heard from both members to learn more about what led up to the argument.
You guys are a huge problem to this community. The way you conduct your business, I don't care if you talk about it on the record or off the record.
Oh, you're off to a fine start.
I don't give a what you think, Mike.
A chaotic ending to last Monday's Iredale Statesville Schools Board of Education meeting. Queen City News filed a public records request to obtain this video.
Then walk and don't come back. Walk and don't come back.
You're lucky I don't wear your out.
This is where things take a turn. Board Chair Kevin Angel turns back around to confront District 5 member Mike Kubinik.
You want something? You want a piece of this? Yeah.
What you gonna do, old man?
What am I gonna do, old man?
Yeah, what you gonna do, old man?
Come on, bring it on. Come on. Hey, we're bigger than this. God, this is what...
I could kill you right now.
He could kill you right now. Okay?
Tensions get so stiff, the board clerk had to break things up.
Stop. Good. Don't let the door hit you. That's enough. That's enough.
You were this close to getting your head ripped off.
Kevin, stop.
On the phone Wednesday, Kubinik says he and Angel could have acted differently and not continued to raise the temperature.
The conduct for both of us was not appropriate in any setting. Elected officials should be held to a higher standard and we should behave better.
Kubinik says he was being attacked and had to stand up for himself.
I don't back down from anybody. I mean, I stand up for myself and I stand up for my values.
He says tensions started brewing at past meetings when questions of policy or procedure came up. Angel sent us a statement in his role representing District 2, saying he sincerely apologizes to the community for his conduct. He says he takes full responsibility for failing to maintain the professionalism and self-control expected of someone in public office.
Meeting adjourned.
Next committee meeting is February 2nd. Jen Cardone, Queen City News.
Lawmakers are debating the funding for Homeland Security, how that money is being used as a negotiation tactic for a larger bill. Our coastal waters could be getting more acidic, what it means for our coastlines and the food we eat. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. Top House Democrats are trying to halt money for the Homeland Security Department as the government funding deadline approaches. They are battling with Republicans who say the DHS money is a necessity, but as Gabrielle Caracciolo reports, GOP leaders are not expecting another shutdown.
In the latest round of appropriation bills, lawmakers are divided on funding the Department of Homeland Security. In it, $10 billion to fund immigration and customs enforcement for the rest of the fiscal year.
I think we will get it passed.
Republicans say there was bipartisan compromise. The bill reduces the number of ICE detention beds by 5,500 and includes $20 million for body cameras for ICE agents.
I'm a huge proponent of body cameras for law enforcement. I think many times that protects law enforcement as much as it does the public.
But top Democrats say that's not enough.
I told the caucus that I was voting no.
They want broad reforms to overhaul the agency as ICE agents continue clashing with protesters in Minnesota.
They should not be able to fire at moving vehicles unless their life is in danger, and they are.
While ICE funding is a sticking point for many Democrats, the DHS bill also funds other key agencies like TSA and FEMA.
That's important work that the federal government does. It's unfortunate that the behavior of ICE is jeopardizing the Homeland Security bill.
You have to fund the Department of Homeland Security to keep us safe.
The majority of House Democrats are expected to vote no, but some in swing districts have signaled their support, so the bill is still likely to pass the House. In Washington, I'm Gabrielle Caracciolo.
An internal ICE memo obtained by the Associated Press tells immigration agents they are allowed to enter a home to make an arrest without a judge's warrant. The message gives ICE officers the power to forcibly enter a residence without prior judicial authorization. It is a move that critics say goes against constitutional protections in the Fourth Amendment. The change comes as the Trump administration expands its immigration arrests across the country. A Chicago man is accused of putting a bounty out against Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino will not testify in his own trial. Bovino, a North Carolina native who led the immigration sweeps in Chicago and in Charlotte in November. As Brano Tumulty reports, prosecutors and defense attorneys have rested their cases.
It all revolves around social media messages sent namely on Snapchat. Those were sent back in early October, one to a construction company owner and friend of Juan stating 2K on info cuando lo agarren when they catch him, 10K if you take him down. That information was then sent by that friend who has a long history of sharing information with law enforcement to members of Homeland Security who hauled Juan in for an interview on October 6th. Recordings of the interview were played in court, during which Juan waived his rights to an attorney, repeatedly said he was confused, wanted to be honest, had not threatened anyone, and that he didn't know what was going on. He told agents he did send the messages but was only relaying information and screenshots from other social media sites and gossip about what was happening in his little village community at the height of Operation Midway Blitz. Two of the agents involved testifying on behalf of the prosecution with approximately 11 years of law enforcement between them. Juan's brother, Oscar Espinosa, taking the stand too for the defense. He was also a recipient of messages used as exhibits in court by the prosecution. He told those gathered he and his brother are both union carpenters. Juan has 3 children and spends all of his time with his family. The defense reiterating these messages had been shared between Juan, his friend and his brother, even asking Oscar, "Do you commit murder for hire?" To which Oscar replied, "No."
South Carolina health officials say they are finding people exposed to measles at upstate supermarkets as the outbreak grows. They have confirmed at least 646 cases since October, with the vast majority centered in Spartanburg County. Experts say people with the virus have exposed others at more schools and a pair of supermarkets in that county. Officials say the only way to stop the outbreak is for people to get vaccinated.
We may be in this for certainly weeks more and potentially months more if we don't see a change in protective behaviors.
Doctors say 96% of people who have gotten the measles during the outbreak were not vaccinated. Hundreds of Clemson University students are in quarantine after measles exposures on their campuses. Officials believe more college campuses could be at risk. They say herd immunity levels among college-age students have dropped to about 90%. A 95% vaccination rate is the target to keep communities protected.
Measles is preventable. This is a very safe vaccine. There's lots of things we can do to prevent spread, making sure that if you do have any symptoms or you're concerned about an outbreak, that you isolate and you stay safe.
Health officials encourage people to check their vaccination status, watch for symptoms, and stay home if they feel sick. A Raleigh teen is facing prison time, possibly for the rest of his life, after pleading guilty to a deadly mass shooting in the North Carolina capital. Family members and victims of the victims killed and injured in the shootings were in Wake County Circuit Court today to hear Thompson's plea of the events on October 13, 2022, including Thompson walking through their neighborhood, continually reloading a shotgun and shooting at almost anyone he passed. He killed 5 people, including his older brother and a police officer, and injuring 2 others. The fiance of a woman killed in the attack says he wants justice.
Life in prison, no parole. That's justice. He took 5 people's lives, tried to take 2 others. Life in prison.
Thompson will not face the death penalty because he was 15 at the time of the shootings. A judge could give him up to life in prison without parole at his February 2nd sentencing.
In each of the 29 counts, we, the jury, find the defendant, Adrian Gonzalez, not guilty.
That is the verdict tonight in the trial of former Uvalde Schools police officer Adrian Gonzalez. He was facing 29 counts of child endangerment for his response to the deadly 22 mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Prosecutors say Gonzalez failed to stop a gunman from killing 19 children and 2 teachers. The jury reached the not guilty verdict after 7 hours of deliberations. Students at Brown University in Rhode Island are back in classes for the first time since a mass shooting on their campus. 2 people were killed and 9 others injured in the December 13th attack. Investigators found the gunman's body in New Hampshire 6 days later. Many of the returning students were inside the building when the shootings happened that day.
I saw paramedics carrying people who got shot, and there's blood everywhere, and I was like, I don't understand anything. Like, oh, what's going on? Like, I actually left all my stuff back there, like my keys, my laptop, everything, and I only got them like last week, I guess.
A memorial now sits outside the building in memory of the lives lost in the shooting. A professor at Coastal Carolina University says acid levels in oceans are rising, causing impacts on the coastline. Gabby Jonas sat down with a researcher on the problem and how it is affecting sea life.
Marine science professor Angelos Hanitas says as the ocean absorbs carbon dioxide, the change in the chemistry of the ocean changes. A change he says is seeing different effects on shellfish locally compared to other parts of the country. Hanitas says the conditions of understanding the impacts of acidification in our waters is constantly researched as acidity levels change and organisms learn to adapt. He says in areas like New York, a lower pH level of 7.9, which means a higher acidity level, negatively impacted their oysters by not producing the chemical carbonate, which is used to build shells for shellfish. Whereas oysters in Murrells Inlet have adapted to these higher acidity impacts. He says one reason is due to the natural ecosystem of the Carolinas, which is vastly different from the open ocean and other state shores.
In coastal areas, we have this complexity of chemistry, rivers rich in nutrients and acid and organic material meeting seawater, which means that our local, shell-forming organisms, are constantly under this, pressure, these changing conditions, and they may have adapted. They may be adapting in the future. So it's a much more complicated environment, therefore a much more complicated situation to address.
Hanitas says roughly 980 studies done 3 years ago showed the organisms didn't respond negatively or positively, but rather neutral to acidity, something he says is one reason why acidification research is constantly evolving.
Today's technology can help us communicate with people all over the world. An Indiana elementary school is giving students the chance to do just that. Alex Kirchhoff tells us about their Pen Pal program.
How cool would it be to receive a letter from Mexico, Indonesia, Portugal? Well, one classroom here at Linton Stockton Elementary School is getting to do just that.
All right, class,
All right, it's time for specials. This is what I want you to do.
Mrs. Lori Folk, a second grade teacher, is always trying to find ways to expand her children's minds while also adhering to their interests.
And I thought that would be perfect for us. And my kids are so loving and kind, and they would love to write back. And so I thought that would be a perfect opportunity for them to practice their spelling, practice their letter writing, and learn about different places around the world. And they're just loving it so far.
Gabe, a student in her classroom, was always so drawn to globes and maps and wondered what was happening around the world.
It's just an exciting part of school, and it's cool to send them all across America and the countries.
It all started from this Facebook post that got dozens of shares that then was spread to hundreds of people. Now Miss Lori's class is going to be receiving letters to their classroom from people all across the globe. And once the classroom receives a letter from anywhere across the world, they have the opportunity to write back as well.
So when we get the letters, I really like when we get to read them, and then we get to just know where they are and see what their weather is and how it looks.
Mrs. Lori was not expecting this much positive feedback, but is so thankful the parents and the classroom were excited to take a chance and try something new.
Anybody can do it, as far as I have found in my research online. And so if you want to do it, you just put the word out there, and I'm going to keep track how many we get and who we get them from, and then make sure that everybody has a chance to respond.
And the children do have places they hope to get a letter from.
Philadelphia and Portugal Island. Florida.
Why Florida?
Some of my family lives down there.
Coming up after the break, I've got the latest on what we're going to be watching for this weekend. Just how cold it's going to get, Brian. That full forecast next.
Stay right there. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. South Carolina state lawmakers are considering a pair of bills that could have statewide impact. One would require the posting of the 10 Commandments in classrooms. As Emma Charles reports, the other measure would change how state elections are run.
I'm here at the Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections, which could be gearing up for a big change to the way elections are run in the state, as lawmakers consider closed primaries. The House Constitutional Law Subcommittee considering closed primaries in South Carolina. Currently, voters of either party are allowed to vote in the primary of their choice. But House Bills 3643 and 3310 would require party registration to vote in a primary. And if someone who was unaffiliated or independent voted in a party primary, it would automatically register them in that party.
It will require a lot of effort from the election officials here in South Carolina to educate our voters. And really the timelines for that not go into effect immediately because we have to really do a very proactive messaging.
Some representatives wavered on their support for closed primaries, citing major party division, timely issues passing the law before the governor's primary, and Governor McMaster's threat to veto a bill for closed primaries. However, Republican candidates for governor Nancy Mace, Alan Wilson, and Ralph Norman have all announced their support for closed primaries. But after 2 hours of public comment, the committee was out of time to make a decision and said they will continue to look at the issues in subcommittee.
I think that makes this a very dangerous bill.
Speaking in opposition to Bill 3643.
Our party strongly supports registration by party and closed primaries.
The committee also considered a bill for designated special election days for municipal elections, something election officials say they believe will save money, increase voter turnout, and eliminate confusion.
When you have consolidated elections where it is specific dates, we can tell voters, hey, these are the 4 dates or 5 dates every year that you could expect an election, versus now where it's really up to a lot of times the candidates to get the word out.
Over in the Domestic Relations, Business, and Probate Law Subcommittee, members discussed another prominent bill to display the 10 Commandments in public schools and post-secondary classrooms, something opponents say is a violation of separation of church and state.
Public schools exist to educate and not indoctrinate children. Our Jewish students, our Muslim students, our secular students, even our Wiccan students have the ability and the freedom to exist and go to their public schools without having one religion be canonized above another.
This argument is being played out in courtrooms across the country, including at the Supreme Court. Originally, the bill failed in a 3-2 vote in subcommittee before Representative Calhoun changed their vote and sent it to full committee, where they will be discussing it shortly.
Up at full committee this afternoon, if that's agreeable to you.
Let's get back to the weather tonight as we are looking live at King Street in Boone, where the mountains could also be in for a very active weekend when it comes to the winter weather. Meteorologist Andrew Brightman joining us right now. The winter storm we're looking at this weekend, it's going to affect a pretty wide area. You're getting ready to get an update probably here in the next 10 minutes or so, but what's the latest right now?
Yeah, the latest right, again, we're not going to see a lot of major changes here. We're talking about subtle shifts at this point, Brian. Overall, the major just is the major winter storm coming this weekend. It's the individual impact, sleet, freezing rain. That's what we need to iron out over the next day or so. But
it's a big difference between what happens with like the ice.
Yes.
It could be the sleet or the ice.
Exactly, Brian. That really is one of the big things here across the Carolinas that we're going to have to figure out, because we talk so much about the difference between sleet and freezing rain, and really that's so important to figure out what exactly we're going to be seeing here across the Carolinas, because the difference between the two is really, really major out there. So there's Banner Elk right now, quiet conditions. That's what we got all across the Carolinas right now, but that's going to be changing this weekend. We got that major winter storm on the way, looking more and more like it's just basically going to be sleet and ice versus any type of snow here. Sorry for all my snow lovers. And really just the question is the exact timing, but really Saturday afternoon through Sunday night, but how much ice we could see across the region. As Brian and I were just talking about, there is a major difference here in what the damage sleet versus freezing rain can do. Sleet, I like to think of it almost as ugly snow. There's little ball bearings. There's a thinner layer of above freezing temperatures, melts the snow, turns into raindrops, but then those raindrops refreeze into sleet pellets and hit the ground as ice. It kind of accumulates somewhat similar to snow, but doesn't pile up on power lines, on tree branches the way freezing rain does, because what happens is much thicker column of above freezing temperatures throughout the atmosphere, very thin layer of sub-freezing temperatures, but what happens is on exposed surfaces like trees, power lines that are now below freezing, that raindrop will then freeze on contact, and then we get that ice accretion. Ice will build up over time. That's how you can get trees snapping, power lines snapping, and it's so much more devastating and dangerous compared to sleet. Radar right now, quiet though across the Carolinas. We zoom out here. Frontal boundary moving in, but as expected, there's a lot of dry air out in front of this frontal boundary. Really difficult to saturate the atmosphere enough to get a lot of shower activity, but chance of an isolated shower overnight and tomorrow. Temperatures currently down to 41 in Charlotte, 39 in Columbia, 48 in Atlanta. It's going to be getting a whole lot colder, though, as we go into the weekend. Check out some of these lows down into the teens. We bottom out Tuesday morning, potentially sniffing around single digits here across the Carolinas. And guess what? We got the Barney colors all the way through the end of the month. This is a prime period for winter weather all across the eastern seaboard. Likely going to get this weekend, though it's just not going to be of the snow variety here across the region. Let's get into it with Futurecast. What are we watching overnight tonight? Isolated sprinkle here as we go into your Thursday morning. Going throughout the day on Thursday, might see an isolated shower. Again, there's still a lot of dry air limiting how much in terms of shower activity we could see across the region. Thursday afternoon, cloud cover. There's that possible shower trying to move through here across the region. I think it's a little bit more likely we'd see shower activity on Friday. Notice the cloud cover on Friday. There's some of the showers moving on through. Begins to clear out later on in the day. And then you start to see the temperatures fall. We go from the 40s. By 1 a.m., we're down into the middle 30s. By 5 a.m., we're now below freezing. And then as we get to 10 a.m., we're in the middle 20s. And then the storm system starts moving in. This is 6 o'clock Saturday evening. Sleet, freezing rain. It potentially, we're talking about sleet, but temperatures are in the single digits in Jefferson. This is how cold. It's very, very cold. That's why I'm very skeptical that we would see a change over to rain. And that's what we'd see overnight Saturday throughout the day on Sunday. As for the overnight hours here, a lot of cloud covered, isolated shower possible, though not expecting much in the way of what weather. Low temperatures down into the middle 30s, the freezing mark up across the mountains. Park forecast tomorrow, a lot of cloud cover as we go throughout the day into the evening hours, possible shower as we head into your Thursday night. High temperatures mid to upper 50s, middle 40s across the mountains, lower 60s as we head on down into the Sandhills. Your mountain forecast, watching that wintry weather on the way here across the Carolinas, and your pinpoint 7-day forecast. Very dangerous winter storm potentially impacting us this weekend.
And you can track the conditions anytime right down to your neighborhood by downloading the newly upgraded Pinpoint Weather app. Get it for free from the Apple App Store and on Google Play. Gabe McDonald joining us right now with a look at Carolina Sports Live coming up at 11. And the Hornets were in action tonight.
Yeah, back at the Hive after a West Coast road trip, national spotlight. He had the Ball brothers facing off against each other. Plenty of storylines in that. We're going to break it all down coming up in just a bit. Plus more on Jonathan Brooks and his rehab as he looks to be a contributor in the backfield for the Panthers in the coming years. And also going to put a bow on day 2 of Media Days for the NASCAR O'Reilly Series. Just a few days out from the clash out there in Bowman Gray. All that and a lot more coming up at 11 on CSL.
All right, Gabe, we'll see you in about 7 minutes or so. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. Humans go to rehabilitation centers following an injury or a major surgery. The Heartland Hound Center in Kansas is giving senior dogs a similar place to recover. Started as a dog training facility, but its operators now offer acupuncture and water lessons in their aquatic center. They help the elderly pooches dealing with mobility issues or arthritis or even fitness conditioning. The center's owner says they offer a low-impact approach to building the dogs back up.
Seeing dogs that start out really timid when they first come into the space, and over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, just growing into this confident dog that is trying new things and just really creating their own personality and learning to love living in the world. That's what we like to see.
Heartland Hounds owner says they serve all dogs no matter the breed, age, or ability. You're watching Queen City News, the most honored and the most local news in Charlotte. We'll be right back with the final check of your pinpoint forecast, followed by Carolina Sports Live. Download the Queen City News Plus app on your smart TV using either a Roku, Apple TV, or Amazon Fire device. Carolina Sports Live coming up next at 11. Our on-demand programs include Turnkey with anchor Morgan Francis talking with an expert about the importance of home inspections. And Pinpoint Weather University goes over the possible scenarios for this weekend's winter storm. Watch it all on our new Queen City News Plus app. Andrew.
Yeah, Brian, increasingly looking like a major ice storm on the way here across the Carolinas. Pinpoint 7-day forecast. Pinpoint weather alerts stay here for Saturday and Sunday. This is going to be a long duration storm. This isn't going to be 6 hours and it's gone. Moves in Saturday afternoon. We're not completely out of the woods here until probably daybreak Monday morning.
And it's important to stay with all the up-to-date information to find out exactly what's going to happen in your neighborhood, because it could be a lot different even 20, 30 miles away.
Exactly.
And we're going to be tracking it all for you, especially you will, I know. Stay right there. We got CSL coming up next.
Now, it's CSL, Carolina Sports Live.
The Hornets back from their West Coast trip with a national audience at the Hive and a reunion of the Ball brothers. It's a matchup that went down to the wire, and we break it down